Hi, and welcome to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Excellence. Yeah, Excellence is actually my name. And I have to say that because when people hear that, they're like, is that your name or is it a cliche or is it something? It's Excellence. That's my first name. That is my birth name. That is what I like to be called. I don't like to be called any other thing aside Excellence. Let me quickly put my phone on silence. Yeah. Excellence is my name, and that's what I like to be called. So yeah, Excellence is my first name, and please call me Excellence. Most people call me the Global Excellence, which is something I have come to put forward over a while because I believe I am global. So welcome. So today I'm not going to take so much of your time because I want to talk to you about something pretty important, and it's about information and access and how the information you have access to can determine um, the possibilities for you or what you can actually stand to access or receive or become in life. Yes. Now, I've said this over and over again, and I think in the last few days, it just kind of dropped on me. Like, do you know that some people are not able to step into some things not because they are not good, not because they have not done everything right, but there's just a missing link, and that missing link might just be one information. Yes, just one information. There's just one thing lacking. They're so passionate, they're so present, they're so consistent, but then they're struggling with something and they're struggling to assess a particular result or something. And usually the reason is because they're missing on something critical. There's something they do not know, and that's why they're struggling with it. And most times we don't even think there's something missing. For some people that are very intuitive, you sit down and you wonder, I'm missing something here. What is it? What am I missing? Now, most times when we're growing up, we always heard knowledge is power. And this is one of those phrases that gets thrown at us a lot. But if you think about it, it's actually really true. Knowledge is power. Over time, I have grown to realize that not mm, just knowledge by itself is not power, but rather what you do with the knowledge, like the application of the knowledge is what is power. But then I also know that inherently on its own, knowledge is potential power because the information you have access to can really determine how far you can go in life and what possibilities are open to you. It's like having a map in a vast forest, and the more detailed your map, the more parts you can see, and the easier it is to navigate to where you want to go. I remember when I received and was convinced that I needed to go to grad school and I knew I needed to build capacity for what I was doing. And I wanted something that was multidisciplinary and intersected social impact technology and nonprofit management. I wanted something that also had global development, but from an international perspective. Let me not bore you with the difference between global and international development. Something hands on. Like I wanted something diverse and inclusive. And I had also been convinced, I was also convinced that it had to be in the United States. I'd prayed about all of this and I'd inquired on the Lord on how to pull this through and pull it off. And He had promised me that He had resources for me for this and He was going to make them accessible to me. And he also, another thing he had told me at that time was that these resources were going to come from one source. I wasn't going to struggle to go through this program. Unfortunately, at that time, that was how far I knew. That was what I knew. And I wasn't sure, but I also knew that you see, when for a prophecy to come to pass, you have a part that you need to play, but there's also the part that God will have to play. But you have to do your part because He won't default on His part. And if you don't do your part, you might not see the realization of that prophecy. So, being passionate, being sold out, and very convinced about this, I had pushed in. I'd gotten admission into the University of Massachusetts. I had sold almost everything I had because I didn't have funding, and I'd set up a GoFundMe to raise funds and all. And I remember a senior friend who was close to me then, and she called and she said, "How can you do this? How can you raise a GoFundMe, put it all on social media When I saw it, I felt bad and somewhat confused. What happened? You got admission, you didn't have funding. Why didn't you come to us to tell us first? I listened to her and I was quiet. Then I said, I am sorry. And then she asked, was it what you received from God? And I said, yes. We had been close for a while. And so she had come to understand the unusual instructions that I received and how I worked with them. So she didn't push further, but she just was not that kind of person that was typical about liking you putting GoFundMe out there and, all of those things. And I was actually trying to raise $50,000. So she just listened and she's like, "Oh, okay, no problem." Now, for this instruction about the school, I did not exactly have the full blueprint, but I was certain that I was not supposed to ask one person or place or any one person in view of this because I was sure that I believe that God gave me that instruction because He wanted to take all the glory in the experience. However, there were so many areas that were gray. Like I could not ask one. I knew I could not ask one person about it, but I didn't know what else to do. So that's why I did the GoFundMe, thinking that pulling resources from different sources, we're going to pull it into one source, and then it will pull me through. While while that strategy did not bring me what I needed, it pulled a force of different people around me echoing the same thing. Everybody was telling me, Your Excellence, you're an extraordinary talent, and these graduate programs and schools will need you. You have something rare, and you should not be paying for any grad school. Why don't you try this? Why don't you try that? I think this might be a good fit for you. Why don't you try it? Information just began to pour in from people who were strangers. They did not have cash to give me. They did not contribute to my GoFundMe as well at this time. But then they began to give me information and open my mind to possibilities I never knew existed. You see, at this time, I was a little bit skeptical and worried that I graduated with a tutu, so I didn't think I qualified. I also knew I was going to a program that was going to be fundamentally development, and I had a pure healthcare science background. I didn't have social sciences, and I'd gone to this school who had told me that because I didn't have some social sciences in undergrad, that I needed to do some things to buffer. So if I was going to buffer, how would they give me funding? Even I didn't even think of part funding, talk more of full funding. But then all these people began to say these things. Now, these were people that didn't know me and didn't know each other, but they had seen my GoFundMe. And so in my GoFundMe I had actually also put my resume, the work that I had done, where I was coming from. So they saw it and they're like, oh wow, this is phenomenal. One particular lady has said something to me that changed my life, and she said, Excellence, go where you're wanted. If these people will not give you funding, then leave them, go somewhere else. You see, even if your father is Dangote and has this money and gives you this money, I do not think you should pay the school for it because they're going to be taking so much from you that than you actually are going to be giving them because you're bringing a unique perspective of solution of results that have worked in a setting that they've not been in. This is not just you've walked the talk in international development. You're not just talking it, you've worked, you have experiences, you have the numbers, you have the traction, you have built curriculum, you've done stuff. So why are you changing yourself? And then she began to point things in my resume that probably had downplayed them. I wasn't, that kind of stuff. And she began to point them to me, and I began to see myself in a different way. And she's like, I know you really want to come. I know you want to come to the US now, but if you can only be patient, just hold on, patient, try and apply next year. I know the window for this year is closed, but try next year again, but try some other schools. There are other schools out there, they will give you full funding. Even if you come, don't pay any school fees. She kept going on and on and it. Initially, I felt a little bit slighted and felt a little bit bad because I really wanted to go, and I felt if it's not this school, it's nothing else. It was just like it for me, at that time. But armed with this information and support, I was energized to push again. And that's how somebody I also still met through this process pushed me into applying for Berkeley. Pushed me, oh, I know you will get the MasterCard Foundation scholarship if you get into Berkeley. I know you know. In fact, it kept being on my nerves. At the point I was almost irritated. It was that irritation that made me pushed me to finish through because the application process was so stressful and I didn't know anything about the school. I didn't even know anything about the scholarship. But you see, that was something that brought my way. It was an information I didn't know. And it was at that point when I began to slide in, I realized that I had something that was rare, truly. But then there was an information gap that kept me from actually accessing what I should have accessed. You see, Let me even give you another example that you can relate to. Let's say job hunting. Imagine two people, Blessing and Grace. They are both looking for jobs. Now, Blessing only knows about the traditional method of searching for jobs, like applying directly to company websites, or maybe Indeed or something, or Jobberman if you're in Nigeria. But Grace, on the other hand, knows about LinkedIn, networking events, and the power of personal branding. So Grace uses LinkedIn to connect with professionals. She attends webinars and even join communities where job openings are often shared before they go public. Meanwhile, Blessing is there stuck and waiting for job openings to pop up online. Who do you think will land more interviews and eventually get the job? Grace, of course, because she has access to more information about the job market and how to navigate it. You see, think about how many startups and tech giants or top companies, how they got their start. Usually, it's not about the brilliant idea, it's about having access to the right information at the right time. Let's use the founder of Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg, for example. The idea of social networking wasn't new when Facebook came. Facebook was not the first social networking site, right? It wasn't. There was High Five, there were others, right? But Zuckerberg had access to information about how people interacted online, and he understood emerging technologies that could make the experience better. He also used that information to create something that revolutionized the way we connected. Now, imagine if Mark Zuckerberg didn't know about coding tools available or wasn't aware about the growing trend on social media. Maybe he didn't know how to code. Facebook might not have existed because maybe he might not even have had the capital to put in something that he wasn't sure if it was going to work or not. But then he had the coding tools and he knew how it kind of worked, right? So Facebook might never have existed or might even have been created by someone else who had access to that knowledge if he didn't have that. So the thing is, when you have access to cutting edge information, you are in a much better position to innovate and create something impactful. But the truth is that you think you sometimes some of us we have so much ego and pride. You think you know it all, but most times you do not. It might just be one information, one drop, one thing. You might just be passing, it might just be something someone just says it to you and it just changes everything. It just makes sense to all the puzzle that you ties all the puzzle together that you've been trying to fix all these years. The power of information. Education is another example of how, when you access information, it can change your life. If someone grew up in a rural area and had limited access to education, no access to good schools, no library, no internet, of course, the part of that person will be more limited compared to someone who is in a city and has access to abundance of resources, right? But things can actually change if, for example, this person in a rural area discovers an online course and is able to have a smartphone and maybe goes in and joins a community and have access to a scholarship program. Suddenly, their world expands. They begin to learn new skills, gain knowledge, and open doors to opportunities that they never knew existed. This is why access to information, especially education, is a game changer and can and will remain a game changer in any competitive field, whether business, whether creative sports or arts or anything. Having more information gives you an edge, right? You need to have more information. That's why most companies invest in market research. They invest in customer insight. They want to see trend analysis. That's why business analysis will still be a very relevant field for years to come. And that's why people keep saying they will always need data analytics, data analysts, because you have to see the trend. You can't just we're in the world right now that you can't just make random decisions or just guess about things. You have to be sure. You have to check it out. You have to have data to back it up. So the power of information is that it helps you see the future and also prepare for it. You see, today the internet has leveled the playing field in many ways. So whether you're looking to start a business, you want to learn a skill, or just be informed, the internet just gives you the access to a world of information. I tell people that the technology is a leveler. The digital media is a leveler, but you see, the catch is not that. It's not just having access to information, but it's about knowing how to use it. It's about knowing how to use it. So, for example, let's say you want to start a side hustle. With the internet, you can learn how to start your online store, how to market your products, how to even find suppliers from your house, sitting in your room, not standing up. But if you don't know where to look or how to apply that information, it's just a potential that gets untapped. And that's why it's important to not just have information, but also seek the right kind and learn how to leverage the information that it is that you're getting. The information you have access to can determine how far you can go and what's possible for you, whether it's in your career, whether it's in personal growth or entrepreneurship ventures. Now, being informed gives you more options and better tools in life. Information, it's key. I was just having my bath a few days ago and it just kept coming up and up. Access to information, how most times people are just limited and they're stuck, not because they want to, but because they don't even know that there's something more. They don't even know that there's something more. They don't e, they've not felt it, they've not seen it. And so I implore you, seek for information, seek to learn. In a world where everybody's trying to speak and everybody's trying to put something out, you might want to be a sponge for a bit and just sit back and really pay attention. If you pay attention, you can find an idea that can revolutionize the world or revolutionize your generation. That's the power of information. In my next video, I'm going to be talking to you about um, how you can leverage communities to get access to information and how access to a community or the communities I've joined, how they have actually transformed my experience and my life and giving me access to information that I didn't know were possible. I hope you found value in this video. Let me know what your thoughts are. Share in the comment section. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. See you in my next video next week. Bye.